What's up, everybody? This is your boy Uber Hikari, aka the Nerd Nigga, here to bring you another video with no frills, just the analysis. And today I'm here to bring you the review of Hunter x Hunter episode 118 entitled A False Rage. Now, let me start off by saying this. Everybody knows that analysis is a good thing. I wouldn't be the Nerd Nigga if I didn't think analysis was a good thing. But of course, analysis is not the only thing. We need entertainment. Where are the gladiators, the lions, the tigers, the bears? Oh my. And finally, we're about to get some action, some serious action here, ladies and gentlemen. Is this not why you are here? Are you not entertained? Killua, that's a bad mother, shut your mouth. Wow. He about to go to work on Youpi. He's about to go he's about to go to work on Youpi. So let me just jump into the summary and analysis of this episode. But first, let me start off by saying this, which is a very strange and interesting observation, I must say. Last episode, we were told by the narrator that it's been 3 minutes since the mission started, right? There was a lot of talk about that in the comment section. 3 minutes, only 3 minutes have gone by, but that was like 7 episodes ago that the mission started. However, in this episode, Knuckles says that it's been about 5 minutes since he's activated Hakawate. Needless to say, this is a little bit strange. I mean, about 6 or 7 episodes equal 3 minutes, but one episode equals 2 minutes? How is this possible? The magic of fictional time, ladies and gentlemen, the magic of fictional time. And hopefully time will start to pass even faster now that we're about to get into this fight between Killua, Knuckle, and Youpi, because we need this hour to be up. We need this hour to be up so we can get to the main attraction, the main event, which is Gon versus Neferpitou. Now on to the summary and analysis. This episode wasn't that substantive. Like I said, it wasn't too much to analyze in this episode. We didn't get too much to sort of ponder over or ruminate about, because this episode was just set up. It's just a prelude to an upcoming fight, which, like I said, is Killua and Knuckle versus Youpi. Uh, so I just want to make a couple of observations, although I will talk in detail about one of those observations. Only two things really happened in this episode. First, Ikagu continued his search for Palm and almost got killed by Bravada, actually. So while Ikago was searching for Palm, and this is the observation that I really want to touch on, that I really want to sort of analyze, if you will. While Ikago was searching for Palm in Bizeff's underground complex, he ran into a lot of different women. There were at least 3 or 4 that I can remember off the top of my head, but a lot of different women who were obviously there for Bizeff's lecherous, lecherous, if you will, actions. And I'm pretty sure these women can be described as sex slaves. This is never explicitly stated, but it's heavily implied. I think even at one point they're described as being prostitutes, but they're really not prostitutes. I think the more apt description is sex slave, and there's a reason why I say this. If you're locked away in an underground complex and you're not allowed to leave and you're not allowed to talk to anybody and you have to undergo tests of loyalty and you have to follow strict instructions from the person who keeps you locked in said underground complex, I'm pretty sure that you qualify as a slave. Now, you know, not to laugh as if it's funny, but it's funny in the sense that it's being glossed over in the story. I mean, I'm pretty sure that if you meet all of those criteria, then you qualify as pretty much a slave of some sort, probably a sex slave, given certain circumstances. And this brings us back to a motif that I've been talking about since I started reviewing this series again, which is the similarity between humans and the Chimera ants. And here is another example of another way in which the violent nature of humanity is explored in this arc and then compared to the Chimera ants. And in this particular situation, it's explored through the characterization and the sort of symbolism of the character of Bizeff. And Bizeff, I want to talk about a little bit because Bizeff is actually a very interesting and even I would say important secondary character in the Chimera Ant arc. The irony of his character is that the Chimera Ants are undoubtedly smarter and stronger than Bizeff, as has been shown on multiple occasions, especially in the case of uh, Miriam mastering shogi in such a short period of time. So they're definitely smarter and stronger than Bizeff. However, Bizeff is allowed to live because he's needed to sort of run the bureaucracy of the government. And there's some historical precedent for this as well. If you remember, well, if you know anything about colonialism, you know how the indigenous people are always needed to sort of keep everything functioning. They're needed for labor. They're needed for not just manual labor, but also for mental labor to sort of run the government, because the people who are colonizing a place, they can't all just move to that colony. They can't all just take over every system of governance there. So there's sort of some historical precedent for for Bizev's situation. But for those who haven't noticed or who haven't paid much attention to the character of Bizeff, he's pretty much in the position of fulfilling the role of the the house nigga, if you will. And I know it's sort of strange to bring that concept in, but if you think about it, Bizeff fits this pretty much to the T, because he's essentially betrayed humanity for his slave masters, which are the Chimera ants at this point. And I know some people use that term house nigga as a sort of insult, as a pejorative, but I don't tend to see it that way. And that's because the concept of the house nigga and Bizeff, how Bizeff exemplifies this or illustrates this in this situation, it shows the complex way in which systems of domination or systems of oppression require the complicity of those who they dominate. And this is true no matter what historical period we're talking about, no matter what system of oppression or enslavement or domination that we're talking about. In other words, every system of oppression that you know about requires the cooperation of the oppressed. Now, let me be clear on this point. That's not to say that people are to blame or that people are necessarily responsible for their oppression, but their cooperation is necessary for that system of domination or that system of oppression to remain intact and to remain in power, even if such cooperation is manipulated and coerced from them. And this is exactly what we see in Bizeff, and this is exactly what's exemplified in the term or the concept of the house nigga. Bizeff is under what is known as uh, the death contract. In exchange for his life, he gives up his freedom. He becomes a slave, pretty much, of the Chimera ants, and he gives up a large portion even of his humanity. I mean, that's what the death contract pretty much means. You give up your humanity, you give up all of your freedom, you give up all of your capacity to determine your own life and the decisions that affect your life, and in exchange, you get to keep your life. You get to stay alive, not your life. There's a difference between your life and being alive. Always important to remember that distinction. And a literary critic and philosopher, Abdul Jahan Muhammad, wrote a very good and interesting a book about this concept of the death-bound subject and the death contract. For those of you who are interested in this book, look in the description box below. There'll be a link to the book on Amazon.com. Very great book. It's called the Death-Bound Subject and the Archaeology of Death in the Writing of Richard Wright. I believe that's the title and the subtitle. Hopefully you guys know who Richard Wright is. Please tell me you know who Richard Wright is. If you don't know who Richard Wright is, pause this video right now, head over to Wikipedia, look up Richard Wright, very important African American author. The second thing that happened in this episode, Youpi attempts to catch Knuckle in a trap, and he almost succeeds actually. We get to see a side of Youpi that up to this point we haven't really seen. It's I won't say use the word implied, but it seems as if Youpi is not as smart as the other royal guards, as Neferpitou and Poof. Can't remember his full name, but Poof. And it sort of seems that he's the dumb one of the runt. But in this episode, we actually see that he's quite intelligent. He immediately thought of a way. I think this is the first time he's ever used this power, this where he becomes filled with rage and he explodes and everything around him just gets leveled. I think that was the first time in last week's episode that he ever used that power, and he immediately thinks of a way to use his newfound power in an effective way in order to catch Knuckle in a trap. And also, he's strong as hell. I actually forgot that he was this strong, but he absolutely wrecked that palace, which is pretty much a mansion. And as far as destructive feats go in this series, that's one of the most destructive feats we've seen. He just pretty much wrecked that entire palace. And like I said, he almost catches Knuckle in this trap, and it almost worked if it wasn't for Killua Zoldyck. Wow. Almost like an episode of Scooby-Doo. I would have succeeded if it wasn't for you, for you hippies and that dog. In the same way, Youpi almost succeeded if it wasn't for Killua, who is such a fucking beast. Wow, is this dude beastly? He rolled up on Youpi like, I'm stunting like my daddy, stunting like my daddy, stunting like my daddy. I mean, he wasn't stunting as hard as Silver when he face crushed Cheetu, but he's doing a pretty good impression. And he's about to continue this impression in next week's episode, which, like I said, I absolutely can't wait to see Killua Zoldyck stunt like his daddy, because he's about to go ham on Youpi in next week's episode. I just feel it in my bones that it's Youpi's time to get face crushed. It's his time to get face crushed. So like I said, this episode really wasn't that substantive. Wasn't a lot of things going on. Only two things really happened. So I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this video up. Another great episode of Hunter x Hunter. Like I said, can't wait to be entertained by the action in next week's episode. So this was your boy Uber Hikari, aka the Nerd Nigga. Just brought you another video with no frills, just the analysis. Peace and have a blessed day.